About to jump into an enthusiastically foreshadowed free agency preview. We're going to hit some of these with Florio in the next segment as well.
Yep.
Get his info, but
this will fill out, by the way. I know this looks lame. If you're seeing the picture of, go back to that for a second. Go back to that shot. Can you go back to that shot? Look, I know this looks lame. You're like, what the? But I promise you, like the problem is that we're on so early. But and it's Monday, so it's Monday at 10:26 a.m. local time here. But this will be filled up. And, especially as you get later in the week for people that are unfamiliar with Radio Row, it'll be crazy. And what happens is like big celebrities will walk, somebody that's insanely recognizable, like Shaq.
Yes.
Shaq will be promoting whatever Shaq is promoting, right? And Shaq will be coming in and will get swarmed by every producer. Shaq, come on this show, come on this show, come on this show. And it's just because every single table you see there is a show. And even though some of them aren't there yet, and then you see some around the, what you can't see is everything, but there's on the outside, the little tables are like radio shows or podcasts or whatever. And then on the outside are the bigger booths for NBC has a big booth there. You see DraftKings and FanDuel there, TikTok, and all the way around, and some of the other networks as well. So SiriusXM has a big booth here. So just so you know, it's less lame than you might think.
Yes.
From that picture.
It's good that we got the big booth. Very happy to
we're
be
very
big
happy
booth,
that
man.
we have the big booth.
Yeah, we love the big booth.
Yeah.
Big fans of the big booth.
Big booth, right. We're sharing it with a bunch of people. Should we should tell who we're sharing it with, actually, right? I mean, because where's that, where's the lineup? I'm going to do that now. We have a whole lineup Peacock. So on Peacock, live from the Super Bowl, it starts off with the Dan Patrick Show. Then it's us.
Yep. Then it's Mike Florio with PFT Live that follows us.
Right.
Then we got Brother from Another.
And then Brother from Another. There you go. You knew it off the top of your head.
Yeah, I just wanted to see you fumble around with your papers a little bit.
Yeah.
It's good
It's
content.
not even, I have 6. Okay, we can get off the Radio Row show. All right, there we go. How about that? There you go. Now, it's fantastic. It's early here for everyone. There you go. Dan Patrick, Fantasy Football Happy Hour, PFT Live, and then Brother from Another. That is your lineup this week, live on Peacock from the Super Bowl from Radio Row. So
okay, we've also got a good lineup of free agent quarterbacks, Matthew, including
let's get into that. Yes, sir.
Lamar Jackson, the headliner certainly, but also Geno Smith, Daniel Jones, Jimmy Garoppolo.
I've heard
Sam
of all these
Darnold.
guys. Yes.
Derek Carr's not a free agent, but I think he kind of is in this mix as well. Feels like it's not usually that you have this amount of people, so we see them layered over a relatively empty Radio Row. Lamar Jackson, obviously, he is the key one. Do you have a gut feel on where he goes before Florio gives us the inside scoop?
I think he stays in Baltimore. I think they franchise tag him if they can't figure something out. I mean, this would be my take. I think the biggest name here that potentially changes teams is Garoppolo. Garoppolo and Derek Carr, who's not technically a free agent, but they've given him if there's a trade that the Raiders will agree to the compensation, he can talk, but I just don't know how the Ravens let Lamar Jackson walk. Even if Lamar Jackson says, I don't want to be here, I hate you, let me go, they're still going to franchise tag him and then maybe trade him. I don't see him just walking to some other team.
Yeah, he's one of the 10 most valuable players in the sport, obviously unanimous MVP in 2019. And I know there are some people who are concerned about Lamar Jackson. Do you really want Lamar Jackson with his health? It's Lamar Jackson. Every team who does not have a top 5 quarterback should be going out of their way to get Lamar Jackson. I agree Jimmy G is the most likely one to move. I mean, Kyle Shanahan's basically said he's not coming back.
Right.
So it seems like
it's going to be Trey Lance and Brock Purdy there in San Francisco. That's a good thing to talk to Florio about and see where they're leaning. But, I mean, I feel like Daniel Jones gets franchise tagged too. Which is so funny because they didn't pick up his 5th-year option. They could have had him on a rookie deal, and what are you going to do? But anyway, but Daboll said that, that they want him back, and so my expectation is that they work out something with Daniel Jones. And if I'm Daniel Jones, I think you want to be back in New York too, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's made it work in that system. Clearly, Daboll has been good for him, reigniting his career. And he's in this same caliber of player now as Jimmy Garoppolo, as the resurgent Geno Smith, who I think is probably minus 5,000 to go back to Seattle. That seems pretty locked in. And I think that his weapons in New York are underrated. Get Wan'Dale Robinson back. Maybe they sign a receiver as well. You've already got Hodgins and Slayton and maybe Saquon Barkley too. Yeah,
I mean, that's the thing. They actually, I mean, I don't know if because they turned down the 5th-year option, if they can franchise tag him. I actually don't totally understand all that. That's not my job. That's what Mike Florio does. Here's what I will say. If I'm Daniel Jones, you've struggled for 4 years. You finally got a coach. You know, you finally got a coach in Dayball. You finally had success. Like, why are you going to go, like,
to Carolina or whatever.
Be an NFL nomad?
Yep.
New York's going to pay for him, and, like, he made himself a lot of money this season, especially this offseason, and so I think Daniel Jones stays there. And to your point about Geno Smith, like, that's he's been in Seattle for a long time. Like, this is his first year starting, but he was the backup to Russell Wilson for a long time. Seattle's a good place. Pete Carroll is known as a very player-friendly coach. Hard to see Geno moving on as well. I mean, there's always if somebody comes over the top, I suppose, and we'll see. But it would be hard for me to see Geno playing somewhere else next year as well. So I think it's Garoppolo, Darnold, and Derek Carr are the biggest quarterback names that we see on another team. Just for fun, where do you think Garoppolo goes? Where would you like to see Derek Carr go? So if you could wave your magic Australian stick, your boomerang.
Magic Australian stick.
Did you have a boomerang as a kid?
I didn't. No, I didn't. Maybe a toy one at one point.
Yeah, I'm sure, right?
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
Doesn't every kid in Australia get a boomerang?
Yeah, we ride kangaroos to school as well.
I knew it.
Yeah, we
in
do.
the little pouches.
Yeah.
Like you hop in and of course.
We do.
That's what the pouches are for.
Yeah. It's still going to be a legendary soundbite of you talking about when I wasn't on the show, you talking about kangaroos serving cocktails, serving Mai Tais to me while I was on holiday.
It's the greatest thing ever, by the way. And I have copywritten that idea, so no one steal my kangaroos in tuxedos serving drinks idea.
If I
that's what was happening.
Yes, as I leap out from my pouch, if I could wave my magic Australian stick and send
it's a boomerang. It's called a boomerang.
It's called a boomerang. Yeah, sorry. I would like to see one of those guys on the Jets because I think the Jets are the one team. It's not just because I like the Jets. They're the one team where if they get a real quarterback, and they didn't have a real quarterback situation this year. Mike White was great for a couple of games, but they need a better solution than that. He's a strong backup. He's not the starter who can lead you to the Super Bowl. I just think particularly with how the Bills, and they've got a lot of free agents, and they got a lot of uncertainty. The Dolphins, we don't really know what's going to happen there with Tua Tagovailoa going forward. Like, they can win the NFC East. If they get Jimmy G or Derek Carr, the AFC East. They can win the AFC East. They can be a Super Bowl contender because the defense is so good. The offensive line with Becton and AVT is going to get better. Garrett Wilson is a weapon. We'll see what they do at the receiver position outside of that. But I'd like to see them with Carr or Garoppolo, preferably Carr.
Well, the other thing is we should talk to Florio about this. I mean, it feels like that the hiring of Nathaniel Hackett, because I agree with you, the Jets are a quarterback away from being legit Super Bowl contenders. The Jets are a quarterback away from being legit Super Bowl contenders. And the hiring of Nathaniel Hackett sort of seems to be a bat signal for Aaron Rodgers because there's no other argument for Nathaniel Hackett.
No, there's not. I'm
not trying to I'm not trying to be a jerk here, but I'm just like, in all seriousness, like his numbers without Aaron Rodgers are fairly pedestrian as an offensive coordinator, right? I mean, and obviously this past year in Denver was a disaster. And so that's the argument, is that he has this tight relationship with Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers, can sort of dictate where he goes, and there seems to be legit smoke to the fire of Aaron Rodgers could get traded this offseason.
Yeah.
As the Packers tear it all down?
It's a weird sentence to say out loud, but I think you do have to regress Nathaniel Hackett to the mean a little bit, given that 12 months ago a team saw enough in him to make him a head coach. Now he's going back to being an OC. And yes, I agree that it doesn't really seem to have done that much impressive.
But wasn't the argument for Nathaniel Hackett was that the Denver thought they were going to get Aaron Rodgers? Like, at the time that happened, they didn't know if Aaron Rodgers was going to come back. Aaron Rodgers had the choice last season to go wherever he wanted. And so that was sort of the big play to get Aaron Rodgers. Then Aaron Rodgers ultimately signed for $150 million or whatever it was to go back to Green Bay.
It would be amazing if 2 years in a row a team hired Nathaniel Hackett to get Aaron Rodgers and then wound up with Russell Wilson and Derek Carr. And then next year, I think we made this joke before, but Atlanta hired Nathanial Hackett to get Aaron Rodgers, and they wind up with
I've never met Nathaniel Hackett. I'm sure he's a very good football coach and a good dude and well respected within the league, and has forgotten more about football than I'll ever know. I'm sure of all those things. You sort of look at the numbers and the track record, and you're sort of surprised because offensive coordinator of the Jets, I think, is a good job. Again, they don't have a quarterback yet, but there's pieces there.
Yep.
There's real pieces there, especially, by the way, when they get Breece Hall back. I mean, anyway.
They got a lot there. All right, well, you know who does have impressive numbers, Matthew? It's Saquon Barkley and Josh Jacobs, two of the running back free agents. They headline a class with Tony Pollard, David Montgomery, and Super Bowl participant Miles Sanders. Now, there's a lot more uncertainty, naturally, at the running back position in free agency than quarterback, where quarterbacks so frequently just go back to their team. I think certainly the Giants will want Saquon back. Seems like Jacobs, despite everything that's happened, he expressed the desire to go back to Vegas. So we'll see what happens there, but much more plug and play the running back position.
Yeah, Jacobs is the really interesting. I think Saquon stays in New York. I think Sanders stays in Philadelphia. To me, the two most interesting guys here are Jacobs and Pollard. Pollard proved he could be an every down guy. And I think Pollard depends on a couple of things. First off, I'm sure Dallas wants him back, but Dallas also has, I mean, and we're going to get to there, but like they also have Dalton Schultz as a free agent, right? I mean, and they've got some big name guys coming up soon that they're going to have to pay. And so what's going on with Dallas? Plus, by the way, Zeke, they're out of guaranteed money on Ezekiel Elliott, and so they want to get out of that contract. So Zeke has said he would do a restructured deal, but assuming they want to bring Zeke back, does Tony Pollard like that, or does Tony Pollard like, I want to be the guy? You know, if I get us down to the 3-yard line, I want to score the touchdown, not have to come out and watch Zeke fall into the end zone and, you know, do that again. You know, like, right? You know, for people listening, I made the whole eating thing, the fast eating with a spoon thing.
Yeah. I'd love to see Tony Pollard on a team like Baltimore. Just give Lamar Jackson another weapon, get them more explosive, share time with Dobbins, who I don't think is a full-time workhorse back with all the injuries he's been through at this point. I
mean, Baltimore's pretty interesting. I'd like to see Tony Pollard play on a team with like, San Francisco. I mean, they already have McCaffrey, but think about Pollard like on San Francisco. Think about, a team that like has speed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, to me, I feel like Baltimore isn't like a fast team. Like they're like more of a grinded out. Like,
they should be though. They should be. They should have more of an explosive element. They should be back to that 2019 kind of dominate the league video game type style. But yeah, I think Tony Pollard's on talent, a top 5 running back in the league, and I think he showed that for stretches, particularly what he can do in the passing game.
No, I agree. But my question is like if Dallas brings back Zeke, so that's really interesting about Tony Pollard because again, breakout year for Pollard, who proved he could be an every down back, a between the tackles guy, a guy that can handle 20 touches a game, big playability as well. I mean, like, think about him in Arizona. Tony Pollard in Arizona, assuming Kyler gets right, like, we got to figure out who their coach is going to be, but like that could be fun. So Pollard to me is the most interesting. Montgomery, it's fine. Montgomery's been fine, but he's been very volume based.
Yeah. Not the most exciting name, David Montgomery. And
also he's a I don't want to say he's just a guy. I think he's better than just a guy, but I don't know that he's a lot better than just a guy. Like, I don't think he's the best running back on his team.
No.
I think Khalil Herbert is.
Big Khalil Herbert show. The Fantasy Football Happy Hour.
So it'd be interesting to see what happens with Montgomery as well. A lot more, especially because the market for running backs generally is, they're fungible. They're just, you sort of
much more so.
Much more so.
Yep.
So
let's hit some of the wide receivers, not a star-studded a class.
No.
Jakobi Meyers, Juju Smith-Schuster, Alan Lazard, Darius Slayton, DJ Chark. I think all these guys can be useful in the right situation, but no real game changers. Also just the star quality doesn't really stack up to Barkley, Jacobs, even Pollard. I think Jakobi Meyers with an elite quarterback could be really interesting. Juju, I just don't think it's going to happen just with the health. I mean, this was the year where I think it would have happened for him. Alan Lazard's not going to get a much better situation than Aaron Rodgers throwing to him and the target share that he consistently gets. And then Slayton, I really like Darius Slayton.
DJ Chark is somebody who, again, has performed at a high level in this league, and another year removed from the injury, right? I mean, like, he was really good in Jacksonville. And I wonder if Detroit that sits there and goes, we're going to have Jamison Williams next year. And we've obviously already got Amon-Ra St. Brown. Whatever, they got some, role players, the Josh Reynolds of the world, and so I wonder if DJ Chark, in the right situation, might look to go somewhere else where he could be a guy. But it doesn't feel like as you look at those names, there's not a guy that goes like, oh, who's going to get some kind of, who's going to get the crazy Christian Kirk contract first day of free agency. You don't think you're going to see that out of any of these guys. And by the way, credit to Jacksonville because when he signed that deal, everyone was like, really? $84 million for Christian Kirk, and you know what?
Seems like a fine value now.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the tight ends, some bigger names here, at least relative to the position. Dalton Schultz, your man, Evan Engram, who cost you dearly this year, Matthew.
So angry.
Mike Gesicki, Hayden Hurst, and then the immortal Bob Tunyon. I think the top two guys are definitely the most interesting here. Evan Engram, I think Jacksonville would love to see him back after the career year that he had. And then Dalton Schultz, I don't think he really wants to leave Dak Prescott, because we saw what happened with Cooper Rush. His production fell off a cliff. Him and Dak clearly have a rapport. Would expect to probably see him back in Dallas.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I would agree there. But again, Dallas has a lot of questions, right? And so, like, they couldn't come to a deal with Schultz last year, so they had to franchise tag Schultz last year, and so now it's another year in. And if he can get a deal somewhere else, hard to see. I'm not worried about. I mean, I think Miami would be fine to let Gesicki go. Bob Tunyon, also same thing. Hayden Hurst, I mean, seemed to feel like he became a big part of that Bengals offense. Had 2 pedestrian years with Baltimore and then 2 more pedestrian years with the Falcons, and so feels like he sort of came into his own in Cincinnati. And Cincinnati's interesting because they know they're going to have to. Hurst isn't going to cost that much, but they've got some deals coming up as well. Some guys, although who knows? Maybe they'll free up some Mixon money. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBC Sports and RotoWorld.com. Just want to thank you so much for watching what you just watched, or at least being too lazy to click out of it after the autoplay just kept it going. So either way, thank you so much for just letting it scroll by your screen. And now I'd like to ask you respectfully, okay, please subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel for the latest NFL news, fantasy headlines from RotoWorld, and betting analysis from NBC Sports Edge.